Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me today to talk about thinking without limits. So let's get started. If you like what you hear today, please leave a like, tell your friends, send me a message. Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about kind of looking at life through the lens of you couldn't possibly fail when you started to do something. And tonight's episode actually, I'd written an outline. It was quite a bit different than what we're going to be talking about tonight. Um, but what we are going to focus on instead is kind of going back and revisiting Jose Andres from World Central Kitchen. And you remember we talked about him and them quite a bit back on November 15th of 2022. That podcast was quite a while back now. And he's still been active and as I mentioned, pretty much every week active in Ukraine and other places in the world. But, you know, like I said, I was planning to kind of feature him a little bit in a spot tonight because he, if you remember, he just did an amazing job. He has an amazing ability to motivate other people to perform the most amazing things, much bigger than they ever thought they could. And you may remember how we talked about his team of people were able to coach some local kitchens in Kiev, in Ukraine, to increase production by an amazing 18 times to 18,000 sandwiches a day. And then another place was an incredible 68 times increase in output. And they were able to feed 34,000 people a day. They didn't figure that they were feeding 500. They increased it to 34,000. And both those kitchens, both those places, the owners initially thought they couldn't even double their production. And yet he managed to encourage them and get them going to these amazing figures. And I've mentioned before this. There's a whole train of thought called 10x is easier than 2x thinking or thinking methodology, and we'll leave that for another episode. Maybe even do a course on it. But it's that sort of thinking that if you try and incrementally improve, you get little incremental improvements. But when you just kind of throw out the whole playbook and just start from scratch, then you can really make huge gains in your life and in what you're able to accomplish. So, I had like I say, while I had planned to talk about kind of in the main topic I was going to talk about kind of a supporting role, talking about World Central Kitchen and Jose Andres, they became the focus of tonight following an erroneous attack on a small convoy of three World Central Kitchen vehicles who were working in the Palestine territory. And so seven volunteers were killed, and that was in today's news. I believe it may have occurred last night, including some senior World Central Kitchen staff members. And so that's just very, very sad. But it, it made me think I wanted to kind of revisit the stuff that they and he are doing and their whole approach to life. And I mean, in this particular circumstance, it seemed like everything they'd been doing had been done correctly. Right? The vehicles were clearly marked, the route and the schedule were coordinated with the IDF. But something went wrong somewhere, and tragedy happened thereafter. But as it happened, before that was even known, in terms of when a paper goes to press, the Wall Street Journal had planned an article on him, talking about all the amazing things that he's been doing in the Palestinian territories. And I'll go through them in a minute. But in the article, they called out, that he and his wife, Patricia, through World Central Kitchen, have accomplished, all the different things they've accomplished since its founding in 2010, which is when they started up following the big earthquake in Haiti, if you recall. But even in this little short piece, so you can see it's like a third of a page, something like that. It's not a real big article. Even this one thing, the one characteristic that absolutely just cannot be missed is that nothing, the whole world, anything he's doing, nothing is considered a barrier to his success, right? Nothing, everything is just kind of a challenge to be overcome. Just, you can name anything of working in the Palestinian territories. Can't get a truck in. Well, they figure a different way around it, no matter what it was. And there's quotes like, we can't complain all day. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. We can complain all day, or we can find an alternative method. We can find alternative methods. Another quote is, the ultimate goal for us is to make sure that we're able to feed as many people as we can. And both those quotes are actually kind of interesting because they're both they really belie the energy and the focus that he works with. First of all, he's obviously a person of action. Right? We can complain all day, or we can find alternative methods. So if there's an obstacle, you don't go, oh, I guess I just give up. I can't do it. Right? You find a way around it. And he has one goal, and he works towards that one goal. And everything he does is to support that one goal. So another example is kind of funny in the article. When they ran out of cooking gas for the stoves, they purchased other stoves and converted the ones they have and the stoves and their ovens to run on wood pellets. And then they got those locally from Egypt. He's a huge fan of getting things locally, because if they're local, you can probably get them easier. And it's cheaper to get them, so it means you can feed more people. So that's one of his big things that he does. And then in another situation, they tried to, as I mentioned earlier, they tried to get deliveries into the country by truck, and they couldn't happen. And this was around the turn of the year, and everyone's kind of like, well, you can't get anything in, right? They won't open the one crossing. And so he called up a buddy of his who had a humanitarian delivery service, waterborne service, and they got tugs in and barges, and they started getting waterborne deliveries 2 months before the U.S., and they had already built their own landing areas, actually from building rubble. Again, use what's available locally, and so nothing that came up. They couldn't get stuff to the north because just the war is going on, and so they started doing airdrops weeks before the U.S. back in February 2024 with the help of Jordan. Just like nothing stops this guy. No matter what is going on, he will find a way around it to get to his goal. And the whole time he's doing this, of course, he's negotiating with both the Palestinians and the Israelis at the highest levels in Jordan and Egypt and everywhere. He's like everywhere all at once. And how does he do this? It's because he's just focused on his goal. And so he acts and runs his whole life to support his vision. And to put it in perspective, since last October, World Central Kitchen has produced over 43 million meals. And produced and delivered over 43 million meals. And I think it said that they're the largest person providing food in Palestine after UN food programs. So he's only 54 years old, and Andres has learned, that nothing is insurmountable if it stands in the way of your goal and your vision. And it's really impressive. And it's not like he's some... being a chef is a funny position. I know some people who are chefs professionally, and a good friend of mine opens restaurants and so works with chefs all the time. And people think a chef just kind of sits around and maybe tells some other people what to do and kind of comes up with some fun things to eat and cooks maybe a little bit. In reality, being a chef is managing a small business within the business, and sometimes it's not a very small business. You might be doing a couple $1 million out of that kitchen or more. And you have a whole staff, you have planning to do, you have planning, just short-term planning, advanced planning, emergencies. It's actually a very, very, very demanding job with a very variable set of audiences. If you make a product you sell into the market, then you're pretty sure what your audience is going to be like. A chef can change from day to day what people are looking for. And so he obviously is at the top of his game in that, and then goes ahead and, in a whole different area, revolutionized the emergency response methods to food disasters. He's worked in 2 war zones now and brought aid to many natural disaster areas. And always it's done with creativity and adaptability. And what is adaptability? It's just using the skills we developed through moving through our life to keep moving towards your vision. The path may change a little, it might even change a lot, but the real goal, your passion, remains fundamentally the same. Unfortunately, as a result of the killings of the staff, World Central Kitchen has decided to pause the humanitarian efforts for the moment. They felt they have to get things under control, and who can fault them for that? But it probably has also refocused Jose Andres on how to make sure such situations don't happen again. And given his track record, I expect that he will probably come up with a creative solution that is right in front of everyone else. Remember, Palestine's on a sea. How long did it take people to figure out he can use a barge to get their food into them too. He managed to do it before anyone else. So, you know, he'll figure out a way, I'm sure. And I just have a lot of faith that probably his humanitarian efforts will just take a different path to support, again, getting to his real goal, which is getting food into people in need. You know, and the reason I'm such a fan of his is that he truly, truly exemplifies all that we talk about. In every response situation, especially when operating in war zones, he is hyper-focused on his vision and his goal of helping those in need. He isn't thinking about how we're going to do the things one particular way, or, you know, now we have to just kind of give up maybe, or maybe if we wait a week, things will calm down. Or, you know, I think I gave the example back, you know, over a year ago, that at one point he came across, heard of a load of bananas that was going to be dumped because they were almost out of date and going bad, and just arranged to have them dropped off, and came up with all these recipes in Ukraine that used bananas. So just when the situation changes, his response changes. But he is always focused on his vision and getting the result that he envisions. The path may vary, the goal remains the same. And you know, this is a real world example in stunning detail and living color. You can look him up at any point of what you can accomplish if you live your life towards your vision. He's not a magician, right? He's just a person who totally believes in what he's doing and operates from the perspective that he's not going to, indeed, absolutely cannot fail. There's just no other outcome. It's going to be success. There's no backup plan. It's only his vision. And this conviction gives him incredible power to always keep moving forward. He has 24 hours each day, just like all of us. But he's gotten to the point of making everything be aligned with his vision, and he won't accept failure. It's not that he has a firm way, one way to do things, quite the opposite. He has a firm goal and a firm vision, and then he just adapts as need be to get to that point. And we can all do that same thing. You know, it didn't happen to him, I'm sure, overnight, and I'm sure he often feels that he could have done more. But he continues on towards his vision every single day. We all have our own vision of how we want our lives in the world to be. And once you truly define your vision, if you work from the attitude that you're not going to fail, you just can't fail. Matter of fact, you absolutely, the only possible outcome is success. Think of the amazing things you could do to reach your own vision. So that's it for the evening. Again, envision what you want for your future. Imagine if you started working towards it and just the only option was success. And then imagine what you could do and become. Your homework, always optional, is to envision that huge vision that would define your perfect future. Write it down. We've talked about this before, but I'm going to go through it again. Write it down. You know, I mean, just write down that one vision, but then write about it. And make a vision board about it. Think about it, imagine it, smell it, taste it, feel it. Totally immerse yourself in that vision of perfection that you want to see in your future. Now, extra points, if you take that vision now so clear to you and take the very first little steps along your path to accomplish your dreams. Please remember, as I said, there's currently many active wars going on, and worldcentralkitchen.org. You know, we talk often about the Ukraine. That's obviously still going on, and obviously Israel and Palestine. But I'd ask you to really please kind of remember and pray for the aid workers from World Central Kitchen who perished the past 24 hours. The link to World Central Kitchen, WCK.org. And you know, they're totally humanitarian, and they work sometimes, and pretty much always, in pretty poor conditions. And the volunteers are really, they're dedicated to what they want to do. So it was a really terrible situation. So please keep them in your mind. If you pray for a certain person, pray for them, meditate on them, whatever you do to bring strength to the families and friends and to the group in total. So remember, one of the best ways to care for yourself is to care for others. If it's monetary to help others, that's great. If it's just moral support, that's great. Whatever you can do, please check it out. And you know, always try and keep other people in your heart. It gives you a different perspective on the world. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along. Please hit that like button. And if not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.